After refilling on delicious liquid water and opening up StarCraft 1, it's time to watch some PvP core strategy examples, aka this good old slide I've been showing you, which is right... boom, there. This... let's see this in action, shall we? Establishing the second base, harass, defend, and tech to high Templar. Harass, extend the map out into taking a third. And so on. Here we see Bisu with the ID only star. This is from his 2015 replay pack that can be found on teamliquid.net under the Zimp replay pack thread. Here we have Bai Han, who's just an excellent amateur Protoss player. The map is Fighting Spirit, very canonical, traditional, standard, stereotypical, normal looking stuff. So the first thing we want to ask ourselves is how is each of these players going to establish their second base? There's going to be a couple things here that I didn't touch on in explicit detail, but sort of alluded to, and we're actually going to get to see them here. Very often, when players finish a gateway, they build a cybernetics core immediately. This was true for years and years and years and years. Like what Han is doing. Han is just going straight for a cybernetics core. No big deal. Pretty normal. However, you saw in the core strategy that Zealots are unbelievable at tipping the favor in a Dragoon versus Dragoon fight. So it's very common in PvP to build 1 or 2 Zealots before that first Dragoon. I really like doing what Bisu's doing. I really recommend this. If you're a new player, it helps you deal with Zealot rushes. You get a quick Zealot out. You keep doing probe production. You start your Cybernetics core, and as that's building, Bisu's just going to build another Zealot. It's going to have 2 Zealots out. It's great. Already has one here. Hey. I want to rewind very briefly to what we see Bai Han doing. Ow. He uses a Cybernetics core, and then he builds a Zealot while his Cybernetics core is building. Same concepts that we saw on Bisu's side. Just wanting to get a few Zealots to help support those Dragoons. When would you want to cut these Zealots? Most of the time you wouldn't want to. They're just so powerful. But you might do it because you want to get a second or third gateway much faster, so you'd rather save those minerals. First thing with the gas, very first expenditure. Oh yeah, baby, Dragoon range. Over here on the flip side, oh yeah, Dragoon range, baby. In this matchup, people pretty much always have 3 on gas. You'll see cute other stuffs that people will do, where they'll maybe pull 1 out or pull 2 out to get extra minerals. Not in this matchup. Bisu builds a Dragoon, but gets the robotics facility right away. Now let's immediately stop and think about the core strategy stuffs, the way that Dragoons work and the way that Reavers work and the way that Zealots work. Let's think about that triplet of interaction together, right? Over here, Dragoon range. Oh, that's right. We know that Dragoons with range absolutely own Dragoons without range. Therefore, Han feels comfortable just moving out. He knows that if he's ever in an engagement, he can run away knowing his opponent doesn't have range, or he can pursue knowing that he does. Either way, this is the fastest possible range. So green can move out. Red, on the other hand, by building this very fast robotics facility, is declaring, I do not have range, I will not have an edge in small-scale micromanagement, and we now can even make more sense of this choice to build early Zealots. Bisu's sacrificing Dragoon range a little bit in order to get a very fast robo facility. Dragoon's getting produced. So, why do you think this is safe? Why do you think this is a safe play? for our green player. Let's go ahead and take a look at his vision. Try to wrap our heads around that. Zealot and Dragoon moved out. We saw a little bit of micro here. Han continually tried to push in there and saw 2 Zealots. Often a very strong indication that a player is going for a fast robotics facility. Not necessarily guaranteed. But there is some slight risk here that Han could lose to some just big mass gateway with range thing. So Han is going to be very careful. Han needs to be supremely aware that if a bunch of units come down and they seem to have range, probably pretty bad news bears. Han also gets a robotics facility, so neither player is really going for lots of Dragoons early on. One of the reasons this is true is on this map, this is a nice choke, and this is a nice choke. So you can do defensive things pretty cleanly here. Over on the red side of things, the observatory is built immediately. Is to make sure we do not lose to Dark Templar at all. Let me actually turn off the production panel because hidden up in the corner is a robo. This will allow the production of Reavers. So in other words, Bisu is going for, kind of as quickly as possible, Reavers, defending an expansion, but he wants to guarantee that he is safe first. This little probe here, trying to answer that question that you saw me so worried about when Han only had this much vision. Is there some sort of all-in coming? Could there possibly be a huge push? If there is, build a pylon here, build a pylon here, or maybe pylons here with shield batteries. Start going into emergency mode. But just continues to poke, sees that everything's okay. Bisu. Dude, Red sees nothing, man. Red has not seen anything all game long. He's just building this very first observer. Come on. And here will come down the Nexus in a moment. This is an interesting choice that we see out of Han. Han, too, rushes for an observatory because he knows that if he goes one gate expand and then Dark Templar shows up, well, that's game for him. But Han is a little behind on Reavers. So rather than go for Reavers immediately, he will eventually get them, but rather than go immediately for them, Han just gets a whole bunch of gateways. Because he's saying, I want to defend things with lots of Dragoons. Pretty obvious what's happening. I'm going to use lots of Reavers to defend. I'm going to use lots of Dragoons to defend. So this first Reaver from Bisu took a very interesting path. It carefully hooked along while these Dragoons moved out to see if there were any Dark Templar. If so, we intercept the Dark Templar and kill it. If not, we float this observer into the base. This is so hard to do, dude. I would not even recommend doing this. Every time I've ever tried to move out with an observer without building a second one at home, I just screw up and lose to DTs and stuff. Totally fine to leave this observer at home. Beast is even getting a second observer just in case. So both players have hit the, hey, I have taken an expansion game. Why do you think shuttle speed's coming up? Well, because shuttles are very, very difficult to stop. So, getting shuttle speed is an extremely common upgrade in this matchup. There's the shuttle speed almost done for Bisu. Bisu's checking around with observers. He has this shuttle over here. All that movement that Bisu was doing early on, just tactics. This is in this phase 2 that I talk so much about. Harass, defend, and tech to Templar. Bisu and Han doing all sorts of movement, motion out onto the map. Bisu's going to be the first to try to show up. Doesn't even make an attempt at this until this robotic support bay is done researching speed. Han is sweeping his own base for observers to make sure that this gets cleanly killed off. Han calmly just selected and retreated his workers. These angles for Reavers are good, but the Reaver's basically gonna die. God, Scarabs are the worst. God. Scarabs are the worst, man. I'm telling you. If you look at the supplies, however, you'll see that they're relatively even. This is what makes this matchup so uncomfortable for me to play, man. I do not like this matchup. You're just so many drops and people just killing each other like crazy. Trying to stabilize. Ugh. Shudder, shudder, shudder. Alright, well, we're still in this phase where it's lots of Dragoons, shuttles, Reavers being produced. Citadel of Adun happening. Yup. What's this little probe getting ready to do? Not expand, not quite enough money for that yet. Just kind of doing this super swanky, sweet tactic. If drops are really big, I'm building a pylon here. I'm building a pylon here. I'm extending my pylons out to stop and spot drops before they happen, man. Pretty shiggity shiggity sweet. Alright. Continued move-outs. With enough spotters, Bisu feels comfortable, but the Dragoons are not being rallied out onto the map. A lot of these Dragoons are carefully left back home. And we see this similar tactic that we saw in the core strategy video that we just watched. I walk to your front door, I dip to your natural, and I try to spot that off. Eliminating spotter pylons. More spotter pylons being produced. So Han has quickly teched to Templar, quickly teched to Zealots. Ugh! Sometimes, if you are safe and stable enough, you can skip Reaver. We will see some of that in a little bit. Ooh! But you can clearly see that neither player did that. Why does Han feel comfortable doing this? Because he has a whole bunch of Dragoons at home manning the fort. See why this matchup's so hard, man? You have to do all this weird splitty stuff with your Dragoons. Still going up to Dragoons. You know, there is the Templar Archives done, and the Citadel done. A lot of times, you get these early, build some DTs, or start some research before you even jump into action with them. But for the most part, these players are beginning their way towards this third phase. Moving out, extending in some fashion, either defensively extending or offensively extending, to be able to expand behind. I think Han is going to yet again beat Bisu to the expansion. Continued harassment, 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 man. I hate playing PvP because I'm so bad at managing these situations. As the game goes on, you can be more reckless with these drops. Early game, you have like 10 Dragoons and 2 Reavers. You need to keep the Reavers alive. But Bisu's starting to get more stuff, more Reavers. He has DTs, High Templar, Zealot legs. He has enough other things to defend. Losing one little old Reaver's okay. This is increased obnoxious drop tactics, having some mixture of Reavers and DTs, forcing your opponent to really understand and allocate his army properly. Look, here's the DT moving over here. Looking for windows of opportunity, trying to pick off spotter pylons. These are completely undefended Reavers. Bisu might try to make a play here, but harass, 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 harass. The shuttle died at some point, the harassing shuttle for Bisu. No, it didn't. It didn't die? No way, Bisu is a god. Oh my god, he's so sick. Still just Dragoons. Still just Reavers. By getting the Templar Archive so early, you can also start +2 weapons quite quickly. Expansion going down for Bisu. For all that awesome-looking harassment, I'm always in favor of the situation Han is in. Green's just getting another expansion faster. Well, if he transfers workers to it, it'll be better. If he doesn't, it's pretty bad, but... losing lots of workers throughout the game can be annoying. I accidentally whiffed this. Losing lots of workers throughout the game can be annoying and make you feel like you're behind, but you're always just trying to get more expansions, more resources, and get more and more and more ahead. So losing lots of workers, as Han is here, it's actually okay as long as you're continuing to out-expand. And then here's the counter-harass. Ugh. Not the greatest storms ever. Morphs into an Archon. Almost has enough for second-round storms. Harass, 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 harass. The robotics facility stays stupidly active. Now that we're finally starting to get some Zealot with leg speed, we're starting to get some storms out. Gateway count increases. We're starting to see this. Hey, we're starting to take a third. We're actually right here in Phase 3 right now. This was a fairly quick move to this phase in the game. This happens a lot on Fighting Spirit because it's easy to secure third bases here. As the gateway counts are going up, and continued harassment is happening. Oof. See that Bisu is beginning to gain a slight edge, spreading his Dragoons out defensively, having detection. Having a small cadre of Dragoons in the middle of the map with an observer to do any sort of spotting that it can to pick off any observers. More drops, more annoyance. And all those moves from Bisu are helping Bisu get lots of vision on the map. If you switch over to the green camp, very scattered. DT over here, some spotting pylons on the far walls. For the most part, it's all in favor of red. Bisu is so good at finding all these little holes. Unloads just 2, thinking, or tricking his opponent into thinking there's only 2 High Templar in there. Gets a little extra value, comes in at these very sharp angles along where the retreat path might be. Pretty annoying stuff. As time is going on, you're seeing Bisu getting a very slight edge. Very, very slight edge. Yeah, cannons are great in terms of defense, but no one's really overdoing it at this point in time. No one's building lots in cannons. Just like 1 here, 2 here, something like this. Dude, am I crazy? Does this look stressful to play? This is by far my worst matchup. Like, by a wide margin. I'm great at losing in this matchup, man. I'm the best. This is just the most stressful thing. It's like so many storm drops. You like can't cast the shuttles, and if you even try to, you're using Dragoons. Oh, God. Dragoons that can't even AI themselves out properly. Yuck. In the meantime, Dragoon production is largely halted. Zealot production, largely what it has been replaced with. High Templar, Zealot. 4th base getting taken. Valiame says, I would have rage quit if I was green. Yeah. Yeah. But if you look, they're relatively similar. Oh my god, that was so violent. Often having one single zealot's good. You drop the zealot first. If there's nearby cannons, the cannons auto-acquire the zealot as a target. Such as this zealot right here. All this is good. All this is fine. I like all this from Bisu, but the more important thing that Bisu's doing is having a presence out on the map, allowing him to establish control of an additional base. Because his probes are transferring, and Bisu's always an absolute beast at transferring probes on time. Now Bisu can get even more gateways, get even more Archons, get even more High Templar. This is the kind of engagement that you really, really want if you are in a PvP. While all this weird harassment's going on all over the place, there's always a pressure for the next expansion. Bisu has that alleviated because he is in the lead by one base. Green has the clock on him. Green needs to get another base super, super soon. So Bisu's going to be trying to posture to get the biggest possible concaves to catch and pick off isolated units. Triple drops like this, I really don't think are very good. It's too easy to just lose a bunch of stuff. I mean, I guess cannons are there to act as detectors as well as to deal damage, but there's a lot of observers on the screen. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of these mega drops. I think it's better to have 3 shuttles in 3 different locations. That seems pretty good. Nope, Despy, off. Guys, we have a serious cat problem. The cat is about to knock over my lamp. Alright, that's a good cat. Okay, very good. Shuttles over like this, I like to see. Shuttles floating up in these regions. Split up, I like to see. This has been a remarkably passive game with the main armies. This has looked very harassful. This is almost more harassful than is typical in this matchup. Get out of here, Despy. Get out of here. She's like moving the screen around, man. So you can see the Archon count starting to get really, really big. Most of the Templar have been participating in dropping, but 12 High Templar is way, way too many High Templar, man. You want mostly Archons. You don't want more than like 4, 5, 6 Templar in an army. After all is said and done, the early Dragoon count from Bisu has not increased very much. It's pretty much all Zealots and Archons at this point. And this is the most dangerous thing to be aware of in PvP. Containment. It's hard to break contain. You can do drops and you can try to do your little, picking off of workers. I mean, that's good. But breaking a containment is so difficult. And so Bisu, after all this action, starts to extend himself forward, establish a really powerful contain, and is just trying to soften up the Zealots, softening up them front lines. Oh my gosh, a self-storm! Oh. They're not good storms by Green. Since contains are really hard to break, building cannons outside the front, very, very effective. These kinds of attack bust-in moves, you don't ever really need to do. That was a pretty gigantic error by Bisu, honestly. Sitting on a bridge when there's a bunch of High Templar on the other side is just not good. Bisu's building cannons on the outside. I'll note something. If you look at this, this is harass large-scale battles expanding and harass even more. Typically, you would see a player like Bisu taking a 5th, or Han breaking this and taking a fourth. Both players are sort of on pause. Both players are chilling because right now it's all about this contain. If Bisu can hold this containment, it does not matter. Nothing matters anymore. Big, beautiful concave. Oh, I love this concave so much. But Bisu just chucked the life of so many of his dudes on the bridge away that he has fewer units. Bisu kind of biffed his own concave. Or biffed his own contain. I actually want to go back and relook at that moment. That was... Yeah, I don't really know why he moved forward. I think Bisu just perceived that he had won and went for it. I mean, 196 to 175, and it's like storm, storm, more storms. You heard me say that storm is not that great because Protoss units tend not to really be clustered up. Well, that's your cluster right there, man. That's what allows Han to be able to break out of here. Alright. Alright. So now that Han has broken out, Han has the freedom to start just pounding these bases, man. Reavers, very nice at picking off cannons from afar. Extra cannons, very nice at delaying until extra troops can show up. If we take a look back at production, Zealot, Zealot, Templar, Zealot, Zealot, Templar, Zealot. It's just a lot of Zealot Templar from these players. It's the most efficient. Until you can get a maxed Archon Reaver army or something that's just pure power units. Building Zealots and Archons is going to be best. Bisu returns back to doing his mass harassment stuffs. And this game is extremely close right now. These Reavers have done a lot of damage. This expansion is going to go down. I really love that Han is not overcommitting units here. He's just sending like one Archon, small handful of Dragoons over here, clearing this out. Bisu, again, with all this movement out on the map, he's going to try to take another fourth base. Same thing is going to be happening right now for Han. More harassment from Bisu. Sort of repeating myself at this point. They're just harassing and moving out. Unless I want to start getting real deep and real detailed with this. This is the late game. These large-scale army movements, like right now, this movement here from Han, allows him to apply pressure here, doesn't defend this location at all. Bisu's position here, abandoning this location. This location, on the other hand, is kind of now opened up again. Bisu's trying to harass his way back into this. With that distraction, reestablishes control here. This is a tense, tenuous angle. And it looks like Han is going to be choosing to engage. You saw me pause a lot in the other big army fights. We're going to do the same thing again. 3 Archons versus, 5 Archons. There's a pretty good number of Zealots here for green. Slow it down to normal. So right now, this is where I'm seeing a lot of the clustering. This is where if I'm red, I'm like, ugh, get me out of here. This is a really juicy target to storm for Bisu. Whew. Oh my gosh, Han is just... Ah! Oh! Han had really good storms. He killed off all the Templar. That was so good by Han. Han just stormed all of Bisu's Zealots, stormed all of Bisu's Templar, and despite having his entire life harassed all game long, has managed to push successfully all the way back. And here, Han really needs to turn around and kill that off, man. You either have to end the game with this attack, or you lose. So this is a little bit dodgy by Han. Just try to pull off this move now. But I mean, maybe he just does have enough. In small numbers, Dragoons have some value against Archons because they can deal full damage. And Han, in this situation, is just thinking, you know what, I'm just going to go for the main base, kill off all the production. It doesn't matter that this 4th base is up. It doesn't have any workers. I basically don't have any workers anymore. I don't have any workers anymore. Crazier things have occurred. Given that the army sizes are so small, Bisu elects to make Dragoons again. Dragoons you can micro. You can function well against small numbers of units. Look at him just kiting. He's just pulling back. Han's just like, you know what? I better kill off this 4th base. But let's not forget, the big reason why Bisu's still doing okay is he's got bases, man. And Bisu, who starts reproducing Dragoons, which only really work well in small numbers, barely accumulates enough to be able to push back the main force. And shortly hereafter, Han, who does not have any more economy, and who just lost his observer to a storm, will be forced to concede. A really awesome game that had a really sort of crazy finish. But the only reason this game was crazy is because Bisu just threw so many units away down here in this corner. Like a ridiculously close game. And certainly like a really fun game, but kind of shows calm transitioning from the early phase to the mid phase to the late phase. Let's take a look at another PvP between this time Bisu versus Best. There we go. And this is the great. Alright, this is Bisu and Best. Best is in the top left corner this time. Bisu's in the bottom left corner this time. Now that I've piqued your interest with a totally awesome game, let's watch one that's slightly less awesome. How are both players going to defend a second expansion? Gateway going down. Gas going down. Gateway. Oh, look at that. A Zealot being produced right away. A Zealot being produced after the Cybernetics Core. Zealot first, then Cybernetics Core. Bisu's doing, yet again, this double Zealot opening. Best goes for a fast range upgrade on the Dragoon, which means that Best can do more aggressive maneuvers with his Dragoon. Bisu has to do more defensive maneuvers with his Dragoon. Both players are going for a very fast robotics facility off one gate, with Bisu's being slightly faster because he has a slightly more delayed range upgrade. Observatory right away. And here we hit the first big divergence point, where Best is going for 3 gateways right away. An observatory. Players do not want to lose to Dark Templar, so the observatory is very frequently the first built thing. Bisu is going to try to do this 1 gate, build Reavers, expand opening. But it's 3-gate Dragoon followed by observers. 2 observers coming out for Best. He wants to be aggressive. One observer to move out, spot other observers. The other one, an emergency backup against something like Dark Templar, but also something that can be moved out aggressively to kill stuff. And it's a pretty clear story of what's happening here. Bisu needs to defend unbelievably well with a Reaver on low ground. He's producing Zealots because he's just so starved for gas that he wants to make any units at all. This shuttle speed upgrade is a really interesting choice. It's Bisu doing something that's very sophisticated. He's not just thinking about the defense right now. He's thinking about how can he establish some counter pressure, some harass right away. So he's just going to get this speed upgrade right now. Notice Pylon to absorb damage. This Observer trying to see if there's an expansion coming up soon. More Dragoons being built by Best. No Reavers being produced by Best. At this stage of the game, these are very, very closely matched armies. If I'm in Bisu's shoes, I'm going to be freaking out and trying to get an additional Reaver as fast as humanly possible. Because I just do not want to lose this game to a bunch of units, because I just did not have an extra Reaver. But this is something that Bisu's famous for, his Reaver control. Not just against Protoss, but against Terran as well. He goes for the shuttle first. And because Bisu got speed, he's going to have an easier time microing this one Reaver. These Zealots that are overbuilt to lead in the front, these Zealots buy lots of space for this Reaver to make sure that it doesn't somehow get picked off by those Dragoons. If Best did want to step forward and try to pick off the Reaver, these Zealots would deal huge damage. So Best realizes, okay, well, I can't win the game by just pushing in, and expands behind. This is one of the openings that we looked at in the core strategy video. You just build lots of Dragoons, push forward, and then you expand behind. Reaver in production anywhere? Nope. But Robo Support Bay's done. Only after that shuttle's done does Bisu get the second Reaver. Bisu moves out with his Observer, his Dragoons trying to pick off the enemy Observer. Can move out and start spotting the enemy army, has this forward Pylon to absorb hits. You'll notice it seems like there's an opportunity to maybe drop somewhere, but Bisu is not yet doing that. He's not just beelining across the map. I think one of the biggest mistakes you can make in this matchup is just marching a shuttle over there to try to end the game. 4 gateways up. You'll notice that there's a little teensy slot here where if probes run away from Reavers, they'll form a nice line here, causing the AI on the Reaver shot to guaranteed glitch out. And here Best tries to establish himself a position. Bisu could, now that he's moved forward, do that maneuver we were looking at before, swinging around from the back and trying to pick this off. But Bisu just says, dude, I actually think you just don't have any stuff. Amazing Reaver shots. Bisu's not getting too greedy. Doesn't try to just march up and kill off the enemy Reaver. Just calmly picks off units a little bit at a time. And that is a clean win, man. Super clean. Clean. So clean. Very normal looking PvP. I think that one is way more normal looking than the epic Han versus Bisu game we saw first. You should expect that sort of outcome. We're going to watch one between Bisu and Noble now. Is this the correct one? Yes. Yes, it is. Yes. Bisu in the top right. Noble in the top left. Because this is a Bisu replay pack, Bisu wins most of these games. But then again, he is Bisu. Zealot first, no problem. Cybernetics core coming up, no problem. Things looking pretty normal. We'll take a look at a very funky-ass game after this. Range right out the gate, followed by a robo facility, a gateway, and a gateway. Very large gateway count from Noble. From Bisu, we see the virtually identical build. He was practicing this style a lot at this day and age. Just a quick expand using his micro to be able to secure an expansion. And once again, the purple Protoss says, well, I have range, and I definitely have more Dragoons, because I've just finished a round of production out of 3 gateways. So I could absolutely move out onto the map. Bisu loses this way a lot. He gets a little cute as he's moving out with Dragoons and an Observer in an effort to pick off an enemy Observer. And then just, like, doesn't have units in his base. So pulling away from the Reaver, Bisu just 1 shot, 2 shot, 1 volley, 2 volleys. Remember, 5 shots from a Reaver, excuse me, 5 shots from a Dragoon is a 2 volley to kill an enemy Dragoon. Picks off the Reaver, and now it's sort of a slow rally forward. Super archetypical opening game. Super, super standard. The player tried to do everything, expand, hunt observers, and not scout at the same time. We just saw some of the power of Reavers and Probes there. The ability to just force things into tiny funnels where you can get splash damage maximized. Bisu makes one last-ditch sort of shrug towards holding this off. It doesn't work. Expansion behind. What's getting produced in the meantime? Ah, yes, Robo Support Bay to get Reavers! Woo! But Observers are really the dominant, or Observers and Dragoons are the dominant for our purple tossy friend. GGG. Alright, so, what happens now? Well, ordinarily, you just look at the supply and you'd be like, oh yeah, Bisu's in really bad shape. But, very common to lose a Nexus, mount a effective counterattack, and win the game. Where did that shuttle go? Is that... oh yeah, it's waiting for the other Reaver. I don't know if Bisu got the speed upgrade for the shuttle. Yeah, that's a speed upgraded shuttle. That's a super fast shuttle, man. That's like a rocket ship. Reavers with shuttles are very microable, so truth be told, I don't know who's going to win this fight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Dragoons with a weird straggling trio down there. We have 8 Dragoons and 2 Reavers, and again some more weird straggly goons. But this player only has 1 Reaver, does not have a shuttle, and Bisu has some of the best control in the entire game. So all of a sudden, we're starting to get to the point where we have equal Dragoon counts. Bisu loses 1 Reaver, loads this up at the last second, and I'd like you just to note, our purple friend is very low on Dragoons, and we know that just having more Dragoons is in itself real hard to stop. And the opponent types out. Now, I think that was maybe slightly premature. Maybe a little bit. And I'm going to pause. How far away was there anything else being produced, man? Oh, he actually just finished a production cycle, man. That sucks. Very losable in the early game. Very, very scary and losable in the early game, man. Isn't that sad? Or maybe it's just that Bisu is so good. So good. Let's take a look at a game of Bisu losing. It's important to watch him lose. It's important to watch him hurt and to be in pain. This is going to be our last PvP core example game for the night. We looked at a longer-term game. We looked at 2 shorter-term games that are more typical of the matchup. Now we're going to take a look at a sort of pretty long game to be able to, again, understand some of these core concepts. We see ultra-fast Cybernetics core, followed by a Zealot. We see Bisu going for his little, something a little different this time. He is getting the super-fast Cybernetics core with a Zealot. And this is kind of a funky opening. It's a Dark Templar Rush and Expand opening. Well, if we try to understand this through the lens of the core strategy video, there's no range, so this means that Bisu cannot get up his Dragoon range in time to go toe-to-toe with someone who is rushing Dragoon range. So this means these Dragoons are going to have to stay very passive. This Templar Archives is coming out super stupidly fast. 2 Dragoons getting built, Dragoons scouting out and about, probes scouting out and about. And you can kind of see now why players tend to get the Robo facility and then immediately get the Observatory right away. Because a Dark Templar is almost done at 4.5 minutes into the game. Bisu expands behind because it's almost physically impossible for observers to exist yet. So Han is moving out, trying to sweep, just trying to do his little contain, but we know that this tone is a little different with the Dark Templar en route. Dark Templar will often arrive before you actually have any detection, so you just hold position on your ramp and wait for the observer to arrive. And defend it calmly. This is pretty nice for Bisu to just target and pick off Dragoons. Always a good win. The weird thing is, how do you defend this on the backside? Bisu has no ability to get Dragoon range in time, to get Reavers in time, so there's this weird High Templar with Storm Cannon defense that is uniquely a follow-up for this build. This is one of the stupidly fastest expand builds you can do in this matchup. So you get High Templar, you get High Templar with Storm, yeah! Pretty cool opening, right? Pretty cool opening. 3rd cannon, yeah! Dragoons getting produced, yeah! And if you are Han, you're going, oh, okay, well, it's not Dragoon Reaver versus Dragoon Reaver. What do you think these 2 players are going to do from here on out? Oops, let me turn this back on. Cannon's being produced because Bisu could literally just lose abruptly at any moment. And it's honestly pretty hilarious because it's like you just go back to the same game anyways. Oh yeah, we got to get Dragoon range, right? Oh yeah, we're going to start getting Dragoons. The only thing that's really different is that Han is going to tech to this 3rd phase very quickly. He's blasted past Establish a Second. He's teching straight to Templar. He's going to extend out and take a 3rd very, very quickly. The thing that got shrunk was that giant swell of Dragoons. Bisu still kind of has to come back and get some Dragoons in there, yep. Han's doing this really cute play, which is, hey, if you went for Dark Templar and skipped a Robo, you probably don't have detection in your main base. You have detection at your front with cannons, yeah, sure. But you skipped a Robo, man. Now, plays like this are very skippable. You could just start getting gateways and zealot leg speed and upgrades and just go for a 3rd relatively soon. You can do that and not do stuff like this. This is fine to skip. This is a cute move that Han incorporated in to try to exploit the fact that there's just no observers. Loses the shuttle. Cannon is not quite done yet. Bisu's hold positioning to try to block. More probes coming in to try to block. Both DTs get on there. It winds up getting killed. Bisu's kind of having a bad time. Just losing a lot of workers. Losing his Templar. Oof. Ow. You know what's happening back here? Up in the green base. Storm, more gateways, more probes, just building up an army, getting ready to go take a 3rd base. Yep. On track to take a 3rd. I think the fastest that we've seen in any of these games so far. Bisu cleans it up. He's still kind of just going Dragoon, Templar, until eventually he can start going for Zealot with leg speed. You have to build some number of Dragoons against drops, but Han really only has 7. That is one of the sickest pickoffs I've ever seen. Bisu starts to just have that star sense where he's like, I'm going to get dropped again. And he just cuts up here with a bunch of Dragoons and kills stuff off. Now, at this point in time, Han is ahead on expansions. Han is ahead in infrastructure. Has 6 gates. Bisu only has 4 gates. Han is now about to start +2 weapons. Bisu has +1 weapons. That Dark Templar drop was pretty spectacular. So Bisu's going to try to harass his way back into the game. Here he comes. Even with spotting it, man, shuttles are so hard to stop in this matchup, dude. So Bisu just gets right back on rebuilding shuttles and observers. You see this annoying sweeping the map stuff? Trying to find, are there any observers anywhere? Trying to sneak around. The positioning of this main army by Han is significant because it is protecting this expansion behind, but it's also on the hunt for these types of shuttles. We see small peel-aways of Dragoons to deny. It's a very costly shuttle loss. Spotter pylons forward. Spotter observer here, just checking to see if there's any more drops incoming. Observer, I mean, Han has his observers checking for everything. Han doesn't really have to do almost any harassment at all. And I don't think he is. I think he's just building more gates, adding in more gates. This is a move that I think is cute. My success rate with it is like 0%, but Bisu's able to make this work a non-0% of the time, which is amazing. So we'll give it to Bisu. You say, alright, let me take some Zealots, which are fast. They're valuable in a big fight, but they also kill stuff fast. And then you just ram it at an expansion. Look at this brilliant answer by Han. Oh, you send Zealots? I'll respond with Zealots. The rest of the army? Where's the rest of the army? How do I lose the rest of the army? There it is, right there on the menu. The rest of the army moves to the right to deny any type of weird shuttle drop. And lo and behold, it's a weird shuttle drop. That somehow makes it by because Bisu's a voodoo witch lord, and I don't understand it. The idea was right for Han, he just maybe didn't execute it as well. And Bisu's trying to harass his way back into the game. Zealots from Bisu retreat. Zealots from Han establish themselves into position. More drops from both players' sides. And here's one cute thing that can happen if you're feeling really behind. You get a red Archon. They're called Dark Archons, but I like the name Red Archon better. Red Archons have the feedback ability. It's 50 energy, it casts very quickly, and it casts instantly. As in, the amount of time between casts is quick, and the first shot is instant. Feedback sets the mana to 0 and deals the damage back to the unit. It's a full feedback. It's not like feedback up to 75 energy. It's just 100% of the energy is turned into damage. And so, if you're getting contained, you can often walk up, feedback all the Templar, and you have a brief burst of power where you can make some magic happen. But I love the way that Han's playing this out. He's doing some harassment, because that is something that you do in this matchup. But mostly, he's looking for opportunities to expand. He expanded to this top fairly quickly. He's now seesawing left and right and left and right. He's trying to stop drops as best as he can. This one slipped by, but that's honestly pretty remarkable that it managed to get through. Han has been great at spotting these things. God, that was a good amount of harassment. And I'd like to stress that Bisu, for as bad of a position as he has been in for a while, look at the supplies. There's not a lot of workers here. There's like 6 workers here. There's 5 workers here. There's 7 and 10, so 17 workers. There's a lot of workers here. Nothing even being transferred. Yeah, this has been pretty substantial losses. And meanwhile, Bisu has plenty there. Plenty in the main. Plenty at the third base. This is not build order. This is just great tactical play. This is just Bisu being exceptional at knowing when, where, and how to move his army around. While all this has been going on, Han's just finally sick of this. He's like, dude, there's the feedbacks. You see those feedbacks picking off the Templar? Ooh, pretty dirty, pretty sick. You will recall Bisu throwing his life away on a bridge. Han does no such thing. More feedbacks. Look at this guy, dude. He's got 3 kills, man. As a red Archon. As we slow down, though, great storm from Bisu. But just better macro. More Archons. More resources. More gateways. Look at Zealot Templar swarming down. Getting contained is really awful. And watch this calm containment by Han. Han's like, yeah, I'm in a good position. And he pulls back. He's even getting an Arbiter. Arbiters are very nice late-game reinforcement units. Not for the recall as much, but for the stasis. You just stasis his Archons. Stasis his large groups of Zealots. Four base going strong, in particular 4 gas geysers going strong. The number of Archons that Han is able to produce is a lot. Bisu again trying to do his magical zealot maneuvers. Magical zealot maneuver plus magical shuttle maneuver. Doesn't have speed. One of the deficits of not going for Reavers early on. It's very hard to find time to build the robotics support bay. Bisu with his nice little triplet play. Drop, zealot, and then tries to bust the front. It proves unsuccessful. Drop's trying to do stuff. These Zealots are trying to do stuff. There's actually a Dark Templar somewhere in here. Oh, yeah, he's right there. For as hectic as this matchup can get, the anchoring concept is still the expansion. Just getting more bases up, trying to manage all the stuff that's going on the minimap. And getting just a shitload of Archons, man. If you can get to the point where you just have, like, 15 Archons, it's just so hard to lose. And on one hand, it's like, well, duh, obvious. But on the other hand, this is the clean explanation for why getting so many expansions and focusing so much on gas helps you win so much. I think Bisu just gives up. So with this huge arc, I don't even think Bisu... Yep, there it is. He gets all the Archons, man. And that's GG. So, I hope that this helps portray why harassment is so significant in the matchup. You're going to lose a lot just by 12 minutes because Dragoon Reaver is very difficult to control. It's a very tense thing. On Thursday, we're going to look at openings. We're going to be looking at this opening from Bisu in quite a lot of depth. We're going to be looking at some of the standard openings from Bisu in a lot of depth, and also some of the Zhongbi openings in quite a lot of depth. We'll also be looking at some tactics in the matchup, some things that will help pretty much in any map or in any PvP game. These are available tools that you have to be able to listen. You know what a tactic is. I'm going to explain it to you. You're a smart person. You know. For now, I'm going to go finish some video recordings that I didn't finish this morning. And until then, I hope you go play some StarCraft and have a great time. Thanks for watching today's good old Let's Learn StarCraft.